Experts Club. Excited to be with everybody this morning. Ops Experts Club, we're here. How are you doing this morning, Savannah? We're barely holding on. Like Amelia got down for a nap. Mom life, right?
Yep, just doing the juggle struggle as I call it. Just, rocking and
Just
rolling.
just doing the deal. Savannah, you do it so well. I mean, I know you know this, and I know I give you a lot of props that people don't always see, but I just you do it so well, and people always are giving us compliments based on the work and the way that you show up. And it's not easy. It's not easy juggling mom life. It's not easy. Like your mom of two young kids. Thea is the queen and is a princess and is amazing, but she's a pistol. Like she's not easy to handle. And then like new baby on the scene really is amazing. I love her. She's an angel, but it's tough to have, a little one on your hip while you're falling keying around with your right hand trying to make it all work. So you do it so well. Just super kudos to you.
Thank you.
Do you think maybe you could talk, let's talk about that just a minute. Today, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about Jess Andrews. We interviewed her last week, the COO for Advance Your Reach and 10X Stages and all of the entities that Pete Vargas leads. Jess was on last week and did such an amazing job. Like, what an impressive lady, just such a big hearted lady, such a sweet lady. But at the same time, you do not want to get on the wrong end of the horns with Jess. Like she's a ball breaker and she's amazing. I love her. I love her for how well she balances both sides. Like she's really kind and she's really firm. And I feel like she does so great at it. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk a little bit more about the things that Jess talked about last week, because I feel like there was so much to unpack. You can only get through so much in a half hour. But like, let's talk a little bit about mom life and juggling client meetings. I know you said this morning, you're like, I had to dip on a meeting because I had a hard time with little one and getting her down for a nap. And can you just maybe talk about things that you just go through? I think, it's easy for me to be a dude who doesn't have to maintain littles anymore. I had my four, but my four are all grown. My oldest is 19, so it's like they're out of the house. I'm just managing my own schedule. My schedule. It's crazy and hectic, and I stack and stack and stack and stack and stack, but I'm me. I'm juggling me, like Megan works as a nurse, and she's gone a few days a week, and it's really me just managing me. That's not your reality. And I think it'd be encouraging to hear for other moms to hear this whole hybrid or this whole virtual work experience where you run operations for a lot of really powerful players. You just came off of leading the entire virtual team for Pedro Adeo's 100X live conference that happened last 2 weeks ago. And you did it like a baller and a boss. And that was with two kids and juggling. But I think it probably would be edifying for people to hear that they're not the only ones in it. We're going to talk today about some of the stuff Jess talked on common ways we all can feel that maybe we don't always talk about, but it's good to realize that we're not in it alone. I think this would be a good spot for you to lean in if you didn't mind talking about that just for a minute.
Yeah. I mean, it's my daily life, but it kind of ties into Jess last week because I think it was so, like it was my favorite. Her and Kimberly, because Kimberly, we had a few weeks back from Rainmakers, and just seeing these women that you would never think for a second that they feel unprofessional or that they're struggling with those kind of things. And same thing, like both of them are moms who are doing the juggle struggle and making it work. And like Jess, like if she came in wearing a suit, like it would just be like, yeah, of course you are. Like, and yeah, it's a lot. So even I'm trying to get emotional about it. Yeah, just it's two very different places for your brain to live. Sorry, guys.
No, I love the emotion. So, and honestly, so here's the deal: is the reason why Savannah's getting emotional is it is such a load to carry. It is a lot to juggle. And Savannah, you do it so masterfully, but sometimes I feel like, it's like the analogy of the duck, right? On the water, like they look so just elegant, just gliding along the top of the water, but the legs are full on working like furious underneath to get them to move the ways they need to move. And part of that's real. And so I appreciate your willingness to get a little vulnerable and get a little talk. Obviously, you can't stage this kind of stuff as we were talking about what we're going to talk about Ops Experts Club yesterday on the prep call. It wasn't going to be I'm going to get Savannah in all the feels, but I think it's good for people to hear it. That's real.
And it is a reality that so many people live since COVID, and I'm so grateful for it. Like it's one of the best things I think that happened from a crazy, world turning situation is that so many of us were gifted the opportunity to be able to work from home. And so pre-COVID, I was wondering how my family was going to make it work with starting a family, with trying to figure out like, okay, like I'm at home now, I'm stay at home, like how are we going to pay the bills? And then this opportunity just opened up to get to come and work virtually. So it's an amazing thing that we get to do, that we get to do this struggle, and we
Yep.
get to do this with our kids at our side. So, I am solving people's tech issues and answering customer support things and helping people like formulate SOPs for kind of big deal things, and helping strategize and use my brain in a really cool way, while also holding my 10 months old hand, helping her learn to walk,
Yep.
which is like, I get emotional because trying to do both at the same time, your brain is like split down the half and you're like, what was I saying? But also like watching the cuteness, in person. So I feel so blessed that I get to be a part of both.
Yep.
Um, but some days, you're in the middle of a meeting and you forget what you're saying, or you're excited to be in a meeting and help people solve problems, and your baby won't go down for a nap, and you're struggling, and you're like, well, obviously, like my baby has to take priority for that. So I'm going to
Of
lose an
course.
hour. I'm going to lose this conversation, and I might not look very professional to my client, but like, obviously baby has to take priority in that situation. So it's like so many of us are doing that now, and it's a blessing, but goodness sakes, it's hard.
No, and I think that so I would say what we advocate for at Collab Team, and those of you who maybe are just tuning in for the first time, checking us out on Facebook, seeing us on a YouTube feed, maybe you don't have any context of who we are and how this works, but we're an operations solutions hub. That's what we specialize in at the Collab Team, and we help people with their marketing, the back end marketing tech. We help them with customer experience. We help them with org chart and team development, and we help them with sales and finance. We're kind of a one-stop shop to make sure that you've got foundations that can scale. That as you're building your business, you've got good foundation. Otherwise, as you scale, the thing starts to topple and you have pain points. So where Savannah fits in that is Savannah's one of the leaders. She's on leadership team within Collab Team. She's ascended up, and she is amazing at what she does at the technician level within, Collab Team. As she's in that space, in that role as a leadership team person, she's also a mom, right? She also is juggling things. So it's not just like Savannah checks in and she's like, I'm going to punch in my clock and I'm going to work on this little project and it might take me an hour. She's not a freelancer. Like she's committed to an infrastructure of team. We have 13 people on our team. She's towards the top of the food chain under me and Taryn, and then it's Savannah and Ben. That's the next two that are in the litany of how our org chart works out. And so there are people that are always coming up to Savannah, asking questions, asking for help, needing tutoring, needing coaching, needing help with things that she'll pass down, because part of EOS, which is the system we roll out for people, Entrepreneurs Operating System. There's a good looking dude. Sorry, I got distracted. Travis is also on our team, and he's an amazing asset and amazing help with all things collab. But in EOS, they have a thing called Delegate and Elevate. We roll out EOS for Businesses, Entrepreneurs Operating System by Gino Wickman from the book Traction. Delegate and Elevate is how can we elevate Savannah's role up so she's working on highest level of brilliance. We're getting the best bang for our buck from Savannah's time, and she's creating opportunities by delegating down things that don't require Savannah's brilliance anymore. And EOS has a great system for how we do that, and Savannah's excellent at it, but it's a juggling act. It's like, should I do that? Should I lean back into something else? Jess talked about it a little bit last week on like this thing, and it probably would only take me 5 minutes. It's probably gonna take somebody else a half hour, but Savannah's creating opportunities for that to task down. And I think for Savannah in mom life, it's the same thing, right? How can she break up her day? How can she, Savannah has days that she blocks out that she leans into being mom. She has days that she blocks out that she leans into being team, leans into being solution. She juggles her meetings based upon when she has coverage, when things work out best. And then sometimes you just have to deal with it, right? EOS's whole thing is like 80-20, right? So 80%, we talk about it all the time, the Collab Team, 80% of the time we want to be cutting fire breaks. And then 20% of the time, it's just a melee. It's a firefight. Like you got to jump into the fire and you're being dropped in. It's like those hot shots, right? They come in on the helicopter and they drop them down in the middle of the flames. Like that's Collab Team, but we would love to live in that 20% of the time and be cutting fire breaks the 80% of the time. And I think, Savannah, you do that really masterfully. And I know it probably doesn't always feel like that on the inside, but just so you know, on the outside looking in, I feel like you do really well at orchestrating time breaks, orchestrating focus. Like we live from Asana. Taryn always advocates for Asana brain, like drop everything, don't try and hold it here, drop it into Asana and put a date on it so that you can not only benefit from looking at your task list and see what you have to do today, but you can also assign those tasks out. That's the beauty of it being in Asana is it's not only Savannah that can do it. She can reach out to Pauline. She can reach out to Travis. She can reach out to Stephanie. Hey, I need help on these 3 different specifiers. I can reach out to Faith. I can reach out to David. I can reach out to people on the team and say, hey, I'm going to assign you something in Asana because I put it in Asana, and I can simply task that out to you. So I think you do it masterfully, but not without consequence. Like it's not easy. You make it look easy, but it's not.
Thanks. Another plug for Asana, just if people watching this, if you don't use it for personal tasks, I also highly recommend using it for personal tasks. So you're looking at your day and you can have it broken down, because I'm at the point where if it's not in Asana, I'm not going to remember that it needs to get done. So just a little side note, do it even
Yes.
for silly things like changing litter boxes and things.
No, I think it's amazing, and I think too the beauty of Asana, and I can just share my screen because I think that would be a good little field trip. And if you're familiar with what we do here on Ops Experts Club, we're always big into field trips. We want to take you into how we use tools, because otherwise it's just so in the ether, right? It's just theoretical, and you're like, oh, that sounds cool, I guess, but like it's really hard to put like practical nuts and bolts to how it works. I'm going to share my screen. So this
Especially
is Collab
software that
Teams.
sounds like complicated, like
Yeah.
field trips make it less complicated.
No, and the beauty of it is that it's not very complicated. The beauty is if you can get into a cadence with it, it works so well. So this is Collab Teams Asana, and you can see all the teams that we have, on the side here. So this is our primary one, but then we've got 100X, which is Pedro Adeo, and we have Roasters, which is a coffee vendor, and AYR, which is Pete Vargas, and a brewery, Jeremiah Johnson Brewing, and Keith Yackey, and all of our different clients as we scale down here on the side. And not everybody's in here, and you can also do some cool things with Asana where you break out different work areas this way as well. So some people are tucked in up there. But the cool thing, what Savannah's talking about, is I can go to my tasks here and you can see some of my stuff's overdue. I've got stuff that's a couple months overdue now, and I need to go back in and adjust that. But I can slide down to what's due today. What things should I have gotten? So I need to be paying affiliates for people. I need to create the org chart with key roles. Like I need to update that. I need to reach out to Pauline regarding social media creation for De Los Mayas from Steph, which was a deliverable that came out of a 555, so I can roll down and through all of these different things, but it also might have tucked in here. Let's see if I can find a good one to speak to what Savannah talks about, because I use it the same way. Get more salt tabs for the Montana house, like that. Okay, so then where does that fit into your org chart? But for me, the beauty is if I can go in through here and I can go into a general meeting within AYR, and I can say, hey, we're needing to fulfill on the Golden Nuggets promise that came out of Yacht Cruise with Pete and Keith. From there, I can see that there are 2 tasks here. I can assign them out either to myself or somebody on a team and give it a due date. And that's going to either populate in my tasks or in theirs. As long as they're part of my team, I can actually request for projects to be done in Asana, and it hits them with a notification. And I know Travis lives from Asana a lot of times, where me or Taryn or Ben will pass tasks on to him, drop it into Asana, drop it in there with a video, drop it in there with an SOP on what the request is. And then Travis just checks in, comes up here to his My Tasks list, lets it shake down based upon dates. And he just goes through 1, 2, 3, knocks out the stuff that he has to hit that's due by the end of day today. And it keeps it all super streamlined without getting lost in all of the minutia. If any of you are managing, and I say this gently, if any of you are managing visionaries, right? Because that's a lot of times what operations people do, is we're managing the visionaries' vision. My greatest encouragement I can give you is drop it into Asana, give it a due date, and assign it to somebody. That's very EOS, and it's very sane keeping. It keeps your sanity. It helps you not lose your marbles with all the new that they push your direction. So did I do okay on an Asana layout? Is there anything that I missed, Savannah?
Well, I'm just going to note that you can also be like when you assign it to somebody, you can also be like a collaborator on it. So then you'll
That's
see,
right.
you can keep an eye on if someone you've assigned something to, if it has gone overdue, you can look at it. You can post a comment just right in the task and be like, hey, what's
Yep.
up? And then you guys can have a little comment thread. You can change the date at any time that you need to. So you can push it a little bit, down the road if you need to, based on your updates. And then if you're like, oh, why is that all of a sudden not being done until Friday? And then and I'll do that for myself. I'll make a note, like, couldn't get this done because didn't get a reply from blah, blah, blah. And I'll put that comment up there, push my due date a few days down the road. And then it's like, well, why did I change that date? Oh yeah, I commented to myself that I'm waiting for a response from blah. So just kind
Yeah.
of keep your brain in a spot.
Right? Because otherwise, like for a collab team, we're under the hood of so many different entrepreneurs. Like we're doing operations for so many different businesses. If you don't have a spot for things, then it's gonna get lost. It's not a matter of will it gets lost. It's a matter of yeah, or if it gets lost, but rather of will it get lost? And it's yes. The answer is yes. It's gonna get lost. Like
Yeah.
you can only do so much, you know. So I thought let me show you guys how I assign out a project. Real quick, because this is what I'll do sometimes too, where maybe I won't drop it into Asana. And I know Travis told me yesterday that I wasn't his favorite who assigned him projects, but like this is Taryn wins, man. Taryn always freaking wins. And so
He
Travis, if
does.
you can hear this, just so you know, I'm bitter, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. So I pitched this out to Travis on just yesterday, 18 hours ago, where I said, hey, Travis, here's the project. I'd always advocate. This is a Loom video. You know, it pushes out to him exactly what I'm asking for him. Here's the list I need you to do. Here are the folders I need you to add them to. And then this is the part that I'll always add in. Please add this to Asana. And then let me know if you have any questions for me or if the due date's an issue. That way, Travis can add it into his tasks that have been given to him, but he makes me a collaborator and I can see his progress. So if he asks questions, we can have questions around this project within Asana. He comments on it. Hey, this is done. Hey, I'm not sure what you wanted here. Hey, I don't know how this works. And I can comment right back in that same project. And that way it keeps it out of the fray, right? It keeps it out of the inboxes. It keeps it out of Slack. It keeps it out of Boxer. It's like very drilled down on, no, very specifically, Trav, I need you to help me with PCS's sales leads 555 edits that are due by next Monday. And what Travis is doing with that is he's taking a list of people, creating 555 documents for the sales leads to go out, and then with 15 people on each one of their sales teams, do a 555. 555 is EOS's system for quarterly evaluations. It's a very simple and clean, beautiful system. Savannah's been rolling it out with the Rainmaker team for their leadership team level folks, so they can then in turn roll it out with their teams. But I think that there is some build to it. You know, there is some creating the sheets, make sure it all is stacked the right way, make sure everything is added back to the right leaders so they can go to one folder, click into it. Everybody's stuff is there. They can share out the right thing. So there was SOP around the sharing of all this, but there is building around it. That is a project. And if Travis and I can simply have a conversation around this one project, instead of all the things that Travis and I are working on, Travis and I are working on a ton of things. Travis has tons of weekly duties that he's doing. If we can have one conversation around one very bulleted thing, keeping it in Asana and comments that are tied to that one project, it keeps you sane. If you don't do it, man, you do very quickly begin to lose threads. And where are we at with that? Oh man, I lost. I told this guy I would do this, and you lose those details, and then you feel like a jackass, and you look like a jackass. So it's better, like just Asana brain. Taryn coined the phrase. I think I need to have like hashtag Asana brain t-shirts made for all of us, the collab team, because that really is the magic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and depending on how like young your company is, or if you're like us and you're working with several different ones, everyone has different communication formats. And I know that some early startup companies, their visionary gets excited and they might subscribe to several different ways to communicate. So you might be dealing with Slack, you might be dealing with email, you might be dealing with Voxer and texting. And so that's, if you don't put it into a project management software like Asana, that's how it gets lost. Like you're going to end up spending so much time, wasting so much time just using the search features on all of those for a subject topic and hoping that you find the one that had the task that you need. And you'll probably be overdue by the time you find it.
I think too, probably just something to advocate here, because this is always that part in the conversation where I really want to lean in and say Asana is not the only tool out there. Like, because what you can run into if you're not careful is shiny object syndrome. Somebody starts talking about a tool and Monday.com is that it right now, right? Everybody's talking Monday. Everybody's talking Monday's so awesome. Monday's amazing. Monday's cool, but it's not that much different than any other project management tool that's out there. They all are very similar. So what we advocate for is find a tool that works for your team and commit to it. Right? Because the biggest problem isn't the tool most often. The biggest problem is not everybody on the team's committing to it. And if not everybody on the team commits to it, then no matter what tool you use, I don't care how new and shiny and amazing. Oh, everybody's just I've heard these guys are doing it and these guys are doing it. And that's how you'll hear the visionaries start to talk. And if we're not careful, because we're in the culture of the visionary so much, sometimes we as operations people can drink the Kool-Aid and we can be like, oh, maybe that thing over there is so much better. And we dive into it and we're like, oh, they do these things that ours doesn't really do. But we don't ask ourselves, okay, but this is the evil that we know. We don't know this new tool is evil yet. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's just an issue of No. The biggest thing you can do for yourself, the biggest benefit you can benefit your team with is a project management tool software system where they can organize their tasks on their projects. Commit to it, whatever that is. Asana's free. You know what I mean? Like, use it for the first 15 players on your team. You can do it for free. Commit to a free tool that's robust enough to handle your load. Asana's it. And then if you start looking at other things, just make sure you're very slow on jumping ships, because a lot of times you lose people in the transition. So let's say you move from an Asana to a Monday. Well, be careful, because you're going to lose some people in the transition. For any complaints that you got about Asana, you've got people who love Asana, right? So as you transition over and everybody's like, oh, I love Monday, I'm so glad we're moving to Monday, you're going to have those people that are like me, that are curmudgeons, that are like, don't mess with my systems, don't touch my stuff, don't, like, every new iOS update that comes out on my phone, I'm like, don't mess with my phone, stay off of my phone, right? Because I like everything right where it's supposed to be. And if you start messing with my magic, it's going to slow me down. So just be aware. What we advocate for is, like Savannah said, she said it so well, create communication channels, right? So around projects, have some place you talk about projects. There's a place for instant messaging, whether that's Slack or WhatsApp or texting or whatever different tool you want to try and use. There's a place for instant messaging. Make sure you're careful how much you use it, because this can get really loud and is really hard to organize. If it's around a project, lean into a project management tool, whether that's Asana or Monday or Teamwork or whatever it is that you want. There's a bunch of great tools out there, but commit to it, because if you don't commit to it, none of them will work. None of them are going to be good, because you got to commit.
Yeah.
Savannah, we went off on a tangent that we never intended on going off on this call. Let's talk a little bit about Jess. We've got 7 minutes left. Jess Andrews, COO of Advance Your Reach, Pete Vargas's mothership, Eternal Ventures, has multiple different brands, multiple different companies underneath the mothership of Eternal Ventures. He's got Advance Your Reach. He's got 10x Stages that he does a lot of work with Grant Cardone. And he's got all these different things, Platform Academy, and different pieces of it that's within his fold. Jess is the COO over all of it. And she manages it really well. She's a badass at what she does. One of the things she talked about last week on Ops Experts Club, if you missed it, just scroll down. It's just here in the same feed on whether you're watching on the Collab Team page, if you're watching in Ops Experts Club group, if you're watching on YouTube, you can just scroll down and find it there. One of the things she talked about that really resonated with me and with Savannah, I believe too, was the whole idea of imposter syndrome. We talked about that a few months back within Ops Experts Club. Ops Experts Club is awesome too. If you haven't taken advantage of that, 35 weeks of content, videos going over people, processes, planning, level 1, level 2, level 3. So it's a great thing for you to put your people into. You're like, I don't know how to educate my people and how they should be doing operations. Ops Experts Club is how you do it. We talked about that a few weeks back in one of the sessions on operation systems, and it was imposter syndrome. And Jess spoke to it this last week. Savannah, maybe you want to talk about that a little bit, something that resonated with you on some of the things that Jess was talking about?
Yeah, I just I love that we talked about it in one of our, core sessions that we wanted to kind of like touch on it. And I feel like we all just were like, oh, like we each deal with imposter syndrome, and felt like it was kind of novel. And I feel like it has actually come up with most people that we've talked to so far. And I think that Jess, it's surprising to see someone like Jess, like I said, like if she showed up in a business suit and like just said that she like ran the world, you'd be like, yeah, I believe you.
Right.
And to know that even she is dealing with the same level of imposter syndrome that we are, because, like we're all just doing our best. And a lot of us didn't come from, really buttoned up, like degree granting universities that to do what we do. We're just kind of doing what has to get done and learning along the way and becoming the masters of what we do through experience. Yeah. And with that, because we still remember where we came from, that we still are like, do I deserve to have this title and do what I'm doing? Like, do I really get to tell people what to do and they're going to listen to me? And yeah, so just having someone like Jess who runs so much and does it so well to just be honest and be like, yeah, like I struggle with that sometimes too, is just, it was cool to hear it from, someone as established. as that.
Yeah. I think the thing that really resonated with me about what Jess shared is she didn't come out of this industry. She wasn't born to this industry. You know what I'm saying? Like she came out of a land planning like background and gas and oil and things that have nothing to do with a virtual environment, you know? And so, and like she said, she was just looking for a side hustle when Pete Vargas found her on Freelancer. And I remember that season when Pete found her, like that was a season when AYR was still really new. Pete hadn't really put any kind of formalized infrastructure yet. He hadn't been using EOS yet. He didn't have all the systems, and he was kind of just a entrepreneur, a visionary on fire, right? One of those guys that doesn't have a lot of frameworks yet, has a lot of big ideas, has done some really big business, but like it's like he's been doing it for a lot of years, but this was a new venture, a new thing he was doing. He had already kind of burned out some team up to that point because visionaries run hard, and without good systems, you can burn out people, right? That's the Achilles of every great visionary, is that they can burn out people if they're not careful. And so he was in this like finding of people, and he found Jess on like Freelancer to do some customer service gig for a particular event he was doing. That was Jess's origin story, you know, that she came out of like land use and oil and gas and was trying to find a side hustle and came in a customer service and then elevated up to where she's at, is an amazing hero's journey in my mind of like what she's worked through. But I thought one of the most brilliant things that she shared and that I really appreciated her speaking to was she doesn't have to know everything. She just knows how to find the right people who know how to do things and manage them well. And I think that was brilliant. You know, I remember when I worked at the credit union before I started Collab Team. I was a project manager there, mostly over construction and buildings, but also helped roll out some projects internally for the credit union as a whole, big credit union here in Southern Oregon. I remember sitting down once with one of the C-level people over lunch, one of the C-suite, and he was actually this CIS, I think, Chief Security. It was whatever he did with the tech. He was the tech guy.
Information security or something.
Yeah, that's exactly, Chief Information Security Officer. So sat down with him and I just talked to him about some of my insecurities about doing what I was doing, and he gave the analogy great. He said, Aaron, I came out of tech for a phone company. What the heck do I know about banking? You know, but what I found is I need to find the guys that are brilliant in their space and then bring them all together underneath the United Front banner that I can then go and lead a tech department for a large credit union based upon not my knowledge base of knowing how to do all the information things. It's about finding the right people and being able to manage them well and make good decisions together. And I thought that's exactly what Jess was saying, is she came in new to the space, isn't familiar with launches and challenges and live events and all the different things that Pete Vargas is famous for in the industry, that Pete has such a big name for. But she was able to grow into a role because she's a smart lady that makes good decisions, that can find key people, lean into their strengths, and hold them accountable on their weaknesses. Like accountability is a big thing. We all as people have the tendency of giving attention to things we enjoy and neglecting things we don't really want to do. And what a good leader is somebody that's like, no, this was something we gave you out as your rock that you have milestones for. Are you on track or off track? Hey, this was a project that was handed to you that you said you'd come back with deliverables on. Is it done or is it not done? And I think Jess does that so masterfully. And I think that really helps to realize, no, you're not an imposter if you don't know everything. You're only an imposter if you're telling people things that you don't do. Like that's not that's a liar. Like so be really careful. Like don't go out and tell the world on things that you don't know to do, but just like lean into your strengths. And Jess has leaned into her strengths. She's a great decision maker, great leader, and she's built an amazing thing with Pete Vargas alongside him with Advance Your Reach. So
to use the analogy that I just like love so much of being the general contractor over a house, where you're like overseeing the house being built and you don't do the drywall and you don't do the plumbing and you don't do the electricity, but you know who you need to call to get those things done so that the house gets done to the proper standards that it needs to be. I loved, like, it just, I want to make a graphic out of it. I loved it.
yeah, so good. So good. And that really is the truth. Anybody that's running operations, there's a lot of different tradesmen that are underneath you, but you're the one called to shuttle the thing forward. And so I think that Jess does that great, and Savannah, you do that great. And I feel like we at the Collab team do that well for people of, hey, if you just need an operations team to come alongside of you, or if you're not sure your operations team is up to snuff, we're not there to come and like judge your people, or like a lot of times people bring us in the room and you can tell they're insecure about their systems. Like, we're not here to shame people. We're here to make things better. How can we make things better? Like we're not here to like strut and flex. We're here to say, no, we've been under the hood for a lot of people. We know what your problems are probably before you pop your hood. Like, why don't you just bring in a team that knows what they're doing? It can help you strategize and plan for 2023. As we get to roll out the new year here coming soon. I'm doing a lot of annual plannings with people. Like, let's put you on a good course for Q1, 2023 and beyond. And the way that you do that is plugging into a system and finding people that are good at what they do. Jess is definitely one of those. I feel like we at the Collab team do that well. And we have a lot of great clients that would say the same. So anyway, that's the plug. We're at the end of the hour, or the end of the half hour. Savannah, thanks so much for joining me with Ops Experts Club. And I appreciate anybody else that tuned in. Reach out to us if you want us to help with your systems. We'd love to help you with your systems. We'd love to help you be the rock star we know that you are by just helping you put one foot in front of the other and lining it out. So, yep. All right, Savannah, have a good mom day. Have a good Collab team day. We'll see you later on today.
Okay.